Welcome back to the Uncommon Podcast. I am joined by James Elliott, the one and only, one of my very, very good friends. And I'm going to ask you, James, to start off the pod by telling me who is James Elliott and what makes him uncommon.
Um, do you know what? That's a good question. It's funny because I grew up in the 90s, right? So I was born in 88. Do the maths. I don't like talking about the fact that I'm getting old. And the song like Common People, Pulp or Blur, Pulp, and I want to live like common people. And it's kind of nice to be on a podcast where I'm being called an uncommon person, and I think it's a great way to start. So I come from poverty, very much so. Uh, Grew up on a council estate. Dad was a drug dealer, and mum was, it was a really like violent and volatile relationship. Kind of left school, not doing great. Joined the army, served 14 years in the airborne in Colchester, which is obviously how we know each other. And my later years within Colchester got into sort of the combat sport community. But actually, I'm a Master of Science in War and Psychiatry and a counsellor. I do like integrative counselling and coaching. I work a lot with athletes. I work a lot with like really interesting characters. So I get like really stretched. I take like there's lots of different types of people who come work with me because I'm self-employed. So I kind of pick and choose. People come to me and do one-to-one, and it can be anything from managing anxiety and overwhelm at work. But I get to work loads with athletes, which is like just the most fascinating, rewarding work. I've written programs and models and things that that I've been published on, not just books but papers that I've written that have been published on. And my actual model of resilience, because when I left the military, I was actually the army mental resilience coach. I worked with another guy doing this, and I had a team of people in this house. So actually, the model of emotional resilience that I then perfected when I became a civilian is actually what like people teach now at like universities and stuff. So I wind up getting notifications that I've been like referenced in papers. People will send me stuff. Someone said had to write a paper about is has psychiatry been a force for good or a force for evil, and how does psychiatry now modernize? And this person had like referenced my work. Yeah, so just getting like reference in people's work, and someone had to write a paper about modern psychiatry and like what does it look like, and has it been a force for good or a force for bad? And sometimes it's been a massive force for bad. But they basically said about modern psychiatry and how like my approach is they feel like the modernized approach. It's really weird to have people write their university papers about my work and just thinking I'm just like one of the blokes from the Combat Institute, who was one of the squaddies, based in Colchester, who's now getting to write, I've influenced policies, and I work with like probation service to help people transition out of prison, help veterans transition out of prison. I've worked helping victims of sexual violence, the people who work with the victims of sexual violence get into the witness stands. I've helped and written books and papers and studies. So like I guess I'm a little bit of an uncommon person in the fact that first and foremost, you're a statistical anomaly if you do actually manage to make it out of poverty. And I definitely would say that I've made it out of poverty. I've created my social mobility. But also, I just feel like in the way that I get to give back to my community and my society makes me a little bit more uncommon. Like I have a job that actually gives me a great amount of fulfillment, and I really love the fact that I get to have a wider effect on my scientific community, but also on my veteran community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I remember when I first came across you in the gym, and
Mm.
as you mentioned, so when this podcast comes out, the day before you would have just completed the London Landmarks half,
Yeah,
which I assume you're doing Bergen trousers, boots.
Bergen trousers,
Yeah.
boots. Yeah.
So I saw you at the London Landmarks half, what must have been 3 years ago now, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And me and one of the other boys from the Combat Institute were both there, both supporting our girlfriends. And you walked past on the way to the start line, and we both went, fucking size of that geezer. And then you walked off. And then I was in the gym talking to you a few days later, didn't put two and two together, and then saw on your social media that you had completed the London Landmarks. And I was like, oh, that was him.
Yeah,
So I messaged you and said, like, I didn't realize that was you,
yeah,
but realizing now it's something that you do every year in
yeah,
association with charity. You do it, as we
yeah,
said, with the Bergen. So talk me through the weights you're carrying, the
yeah,
purpose for doing the challenge every single year without fail,
yeah,
and some of the more heinous experiences during those races?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of doing stupid shit for charity. Like I don't like there's no more nobler cause, right? Like I'm trying to raise money for a veterans mental health charity called Tough Enough to Care. They're great. Like it's a great charity, great institution. They're great, and all charities get opportunities to get tokens for races. So like what better thing is there to do than to say, yeah, I'll run, I'll raise money for you. I'll do the London Landmarks half marathon for you. And they've recently said, would you do more? And I've said, yes, of course I would. And they said, okay, cool. What's the maximum distance you do carrying a Bergen? And I'm like, I'll do whatever distance. So anyway, I can announce officially that next year I'm doing the London Landmarks half marathon, taking a few weeks off, and then doing the full marathon in kit as well, which is gonna be
Oh,
hideous in the
that's
heat.
amazing though,
Yeah,
mate. That is
yeah, that's cool.
unbelievable.
The London Marathon is a big one to do.
Mm.
Like, if you're going to do a marathon, you want to do London, you want to do Rome, you want to do what like Chicago, you want to do like a big city one,
Mm-hmm.
and London Marathon is like a real joy. So next year I'll be doing the London Marathon in full kit. So yeah, every year I do the London Landmarks half for this charity, and yeah, I put 44 pound in my Bergen, and then I took some water in there, and then off I go. A couple of things about that. So the airborne 10 miler is 10 miles in an hour 50, right? Every year, on my watch, I make sure that I get over that 10-mile point at an hour 50. I've still got it in the bag. Like I could still do it. That's like my little thing, right? I can still make that 10 mile in an hour 50 point. That's like the main thing that I care about. And then I've got just 3 miles bolted on the end of it to get over the finish line. That's kind of how I break it down. That's how I see it. And actually, like breaking things down into like achievable chunks is so important. It's one of the things I work with clients, particularly athlete clients, all the time. How do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, right? So like, okay, cool. There was a line that one of the instructors said to me when I was on P Company, which is this course to kind of become part of the airborne forces. And he says, left foot, right foot, your body will follow you. Keep going, Elliot. And I was like, it's just like a real throwaway line that's like stayed with me my whole life. And both the metaphorical and the literal sense of it. So the literal sense of it and the London Landmarks half marathon is when you go to that place, for me, I'm going left foot, right foot, my body will follow. Like just keep, it doesn't matter, you will get there eventually, just keep stepping. But also like the metaphorical usage of that. So I run my own business, right? And I run my own business, and I've written and designed and developed and deliver mainly mental resilience models, be it as one-to-one counseling and integrative coaching, psychotherapeutic approach, or whether or not that's within groups, or whether or not that's part of a research piece. And there's lots of times where it is late at night, I'm sat in front of my laptop and or iPad, and it is left foot, right foot, body will follow. Like ping that email, contact that company, find out what the next bit of paperwork will be, answer the next question, fill out the next box, all that type of stuff. You know, like I was looking at a contract with Worcestershire County Council to provide mentorship for people who have dropped out of education. It's an 89 question application, not even particularly about the contract. And it's stuff like, we need confirmation of your D&I policy before you can go to like the next question. And it's like, well, I employ one person and he's a disabled veteran, but you still need to have D&I. So it's like, okay, sit down and write your D&I policy. You've never done that before. Sit and write it down, like left foot, right foot, your body will follow. And I think that's a really great mentality to take into life. Like just left foot, right foot, your body will follow, because there's always going to be the next step, right? There's always the next thing to do. And actually just learning to enjoy that journey by just left foot, right foot, body will follow. It's fine. I don't need to get overwhelmed. I just need a process. Most people get overwhelmed in their life. Most people get overwhelmed by things because they simply don't have a process. If it's left foot, right foot, like you just, that is how you're going to do it. Everything else will come with it. The body coming with it is how your life will move along with it. The more you commit to these left foot, right foot, the more your body will follow. And so London Landmarks half marathon, the reason why I like doing specifically that one is first and foremostly it draws a crowd. Like it's hard to fail on a run when you're on your own. I've done like some endurance events on my own. Had like obviously like most people having a bit of a mentee bee during lockdown. I ran a straight line marathon once. Like, I don't know if I've told you guys about this. I just ran down the M40
Yeah,
and
I
then just
remember you
turned
telling
around
me.
because there was no
Absolutely
traffic.
insane.
Yeah,
Absolutely
I just ran
insane.
it. Yeah, but actually, literally, like, diagnosably, like, had lots of clot lines. But I did another one that was a mile loop and just ran round a mile loop. And I ran past my car that had my keys on the driver's side tire. So I didn't tell anybody. So basically, I made the conditions as difficult psychologically, as easy, you could argue, for me to quit, because nobody would know that I'd quit. I would be the only person who knew that I had quit. And I just went and just did it and went round and round and round. So the London Landmarks is actually, it's a relatively easy event because it's there's so many people there cheering you on. Like, there's such a great atmosphere, there's such a great energy to it. So it's really motivational. But secondly, because it's a great representation of one of the theories, one of my personal philosophies for life that I always try and give to clients, which is left foot, right foot, your body will follow. You can have you can be carrying all this weight, and it can be awful and it can be difficult, but left foot, right foot, your body will follow. Just keep going. I'm not there to race anybody. I'm there to prove that if you just keep putting your left foot in front of your right foot, you will get to the end of it and your body will follow. And like, you get all of the great footage, you get all of the great pictures, you get all of the great content, and it's for a worthy cause. So the London Lamps half marathon, if you've never run a half marathon before, go and do that one because it's absolutely banging.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak for. I haven't done the Landmarks half, but I've done the London Marathon
Mm-hmm.
3 times, and I'm. Have you done it before?
No, I've not done London. No.
I am buzzing for you to do it next year, mate,
Nice.
because
So soon.
it's the best. I mean, your experience is probably going to be slightly different to mine because although I was absolutely dying, I wasn't carrying a bag as well.
Yeah.
But so left foot, right foot, your body will follow is
Mm.
one of your personal phrases that you use all the time for yourself, for clients. But one of the ones that you put out on social media a lot is stronger together.
Mm.
Now, I'm curious on why the comma between stronger and together.
It's just how I phrase it. So it's stronger together. The whole point is to create that emphasis, to the grammatical emphasis on those words. And the reason why I have that is because one of the things that we miss massively is that we are, as human beings, herd animals. This idea of individualism that is so deeply rooted within capitalism and neoliberalism, this is not actually how we're designed to live. Like, if it's so bizarre to me that, like, conservatism is deeply rooted within capitalism, but actually conservatism is about keeping things the way that they are. If you simply go far enough back in time, you would find the most socialist, like, environment and tribe ever. We were just designed to, like, look after each other. We are herd animals. Like, we just care for each other. We just, like, money was very recently invented. Like, human beings, we first emerged from the jungles of Central Africa, so like the Paleolithic period was about 2.5 million years ago. Like, we weren't like, what is a credit score? Like, actually, as human beings, we're designed to reject that. We're actually designed to be herd animals who look after each other, who, like, take care of each other, who support each other, who are like who love each other, who, like, we're not designed to be split and confused and challenged over differences. We're designed to, like, care, and people care for each other. Like, that's how you're designed to be. Like, at some point you would be, like, conservative enough to actually come all the way back around to, actually, yeah, we're just designed to, like, look up, like, we are literally, as cavemen, designed to just look and care and love for each other. But there is, like, so many great examples of that. In fact, one of the earliest examples we've got of what we would consider civilized society was that there was a skeleton that was found with a healed fracture on the leg. And so what the argument is that that was the first origins of civilized society, because a human, or a human-ish, had broken its leg, and the tribe had looked after it till it had then repaired and can then partake in the tribe again, and it wasn't just left to its death. And that's, like, we have separated ourselves from the animals, whereby an individual has got injured and the tribe has come together to look after this individual. And so, like, that's our oldest example of of civilization, is actual mutual healthcare. And it's, like,
Yeah.
supporting each other. And so, like, so many people are, like, so lost in the modern society, where they're like, I don't play a role in my life, like, I feel really lost, I feel so isolated, like, I've got this, like, rectangle that fits in my pocket in my hand that just takes up 9 hours of my my life every day. Like, I don't spend time with friends. I don't spend time with family. Like, there's nothing communal about the way that I live. And I'm really depressed. And it's just such, again, an emphasis of Western psychiatry whereby we get diagnosis and symptoms the wrong way around. Like, we diagnose somebody as depressed, right? But the symptom is depression. The diagnosis is lonely. Like, the depression is a symptom of the loan, which is the outer issue, like proximal and distal factors. The individual is incredibly socially isolated, and as human beings, that we're not supposed to be that. And that's why that's my big message is that we are stronger together. Like, when we unite and when we understand, when we support each other, like, we are stronger together. Like, do away with this ego based around individualism that has been conditioned and pushed onto us by this quote unquote American dream. Like, no, like, do away with that. Instead, like, support and love each other and just care for each other. That's literally how you're designed to be. There is nothing more rewarding than looking after your friends and being able to play a role in your friendship group. The Read games is I imagine an incredibly fulfilling day for you. You're like, this is great. And your dad is so happy to come out with trays of lasagna and everyone eats, and then we sit and watch UFC on people's phones. Like, that is an incredibly rewarding day. That's human beings being human beings. That's like that there is mental health in a nutshell that we miss as a society. Like, we all went and did loads of fizz, and we all had a laugh when we did it, and we all teased each other, and then we all had like a good laugh, and then we all ate loads of good food together, and then we watched something together, and then we all went home. Like brilliant. That is what we miss. And so every post of mine is based on just, we are stronger together. When we unite and when we all look after each other, when we all play a role for each other, we are stronger. And it's just an aspect that we massively miss in the modern society. We have been pushed and driven apart.
So, for context, the Read Games is a fitness event that me and my brother host at our house every year. It's we've had up to 25 people turn up, and we put them in teams, and we beast them for the day, basically. And we have 7 or 8 events. And last year, you actually won the Read Games. Your team won the Read Games.
I wasn't going to bring it up, mate. Yeah.
I'm surprised you haven't got the crown on.
It's not to hand. I should have. I didn't even.
You should have done. That would have been quality. But there is something to say for that, because, as you say, like, for us, we don't get anything from the Read Games in terms of, we don't charge people, we don't make a profit. In fact, we lose a significant amount of money on making food for everybody and doing bits and bobs that make it a special day. But that community element of it, where yourself will show up, but we'll also have one of my clients who doesn't know anyone. We'll have a load of boys from the gym, and everybody's getting introduced to each other, and you have this community day of loads of people who want to do exercise and want to do something really difficult together, and then they see each other 3 or 4 times a year at the various events we do, and they've got a real bond through that physical challenge that they've gone through.
And it's great because like so many men struggle to bond outside of the realm of, I'm exhausted from a physical activity. So, like, generally speaking, the only time you see men really open up to each other is at the end of a marathon, or after 5 rounds of sparring, or after whatever it might be, right at the top of a mountain. So that's why so many of these events exist. And then men, when they're absolutely exhausted and they're guarded down, they say stuff like, I never really felt like my parents loved me. And you're like, it's such a shame that we have to get to this point of exhaustion before men are willing to be emotionally vulnerable with each other. But that shared emotional vulnerability then creates a bond, and then that bond is then what so many people then rely on and find so fulfilling within their lives. So the Read Games plays a really important social structure within the fact that it allows people to bond over shared adversities together. But it also, like you said, it introduces people. I only knew of, I'd never actually met Sam Mockford. And there was almost like this level of like expectation, excitement that James Elliott and Sam Mockford were going to meet each other. It was like so bizarre. Like, and it sounds like my ego's gone absolutely wild, but I remember Oz even got a picture of me and Sam like talking to each other for the first time, and he like got the emoji of like 2 gorillas like stood opposite each other, and he was like, finally they meet, and it's working out if they like each other or not. And then it was just like, it was like that scene from Step Brothers when it was like, did we just become best friends? Yep. Like great, and a really, really good friend of mine, Sam Cook, is also really, really good friends with Sam Mockford, and he was like, I'm really glad you 2 get on because I knew that you would. So it's like this, it's a social event as well as and to like almost, but not the same, but almost like a networking event without the connotations of a networking event just being like awful and really disingenuous. It was just an event for like lots of these guys who, and I'm not one of them, but lots of these guys who are like real athletes to like meet each other and have a laugh, but also then there's this mental health aspect of shared adversity that was actually like so important and so significant to the day. And we got to see so many funny things. Who was a guy who kept asking us questions? Some of the
Oh,
questions were just
which one?
unbelievable.
Which one?
Oh,
Like,
like
it's a
some
painful
of
day
them.
for me.
What does he say? He said, Tommy, yes, mate. There's only 6 sets of jerry cans here. Yeah, that's because there's 6 teams. All right then. They're like, what is going on? The questions. Tommy, can I do this whilst wearing my shoes? Why would you not wear your shoes for it? Oh, okay, cool, yeah, cool.
Is that great point? Yeah.
Yeah.
So to come back to the sort of humans being meant to be in tribes that we were talking
Yeah.
about before. Obviously, you served 14 years in the military where
Mm.
everything is tribal. You're very
Yeah.
reliant on the people around you, and
Yeah.
I've seen you reference on Instagram before that you never build relationships like you had when you were in the military, like going
Yeah.
for any veteran.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is missing in civilian life where we could allow more men, specifically men, but just people in general, to build more in-depth relationships?
Yeah. Well, I think that this culture of individualism that exists. So, like let's say for example the terminology lone wolf, like that's an oxymoron. There's no such thing as a lone wolf. Like they're the most pack animal that I can think of. Like they have a whole pack. Like I'm a lone wolf. There's no such thing. That's a really weird example to like use a lone wolf. It's like the most tribal thing. But like people go get a wolf tattooed on them and be like, I'm a lone wolf, and you're like, that doesn't make sense. Like wolves are a pack. Like we're all part of a pack, but we have this narrative of individualism driven. So like, um, uh, I think that we saw a really good example of that within the Louis Theroux documentary about the manosphere. He says, why don't you just do like good things? Why don't you care? And he's like, well, I wouldn't make money. And I don't care because I'm making money. Like it doesn't like I'm always going to be financially okay. My kids are always going to be great. Like it doesn't matter what I do because I'm making money. And he's like, well, can you see that's the same argument as Bonnie Blue? And he's like, well, don't compare me to her. And he's like, but it is. And like, so let's just look at like that argument. It doesn't matter what I choose to do as long as I'm making money. It's almost that I call it the what color is your Bugatti theory, which is like, it doesn't matter like what I do with my life because I'm making money. Okay, cool. But then when did money become more important than virtue? Like, how did we condition entire generations of people to believe that money was more important than connection, or money was more important than compassion, or money was more important than kindness? And because, to a degree, people like sneer and go, because it is. And you're like, right, yeah, right, because a roof over your head and food in your belly and all the things we need to live in society come from money. But is your money more important than your dignity? Is your money more important than your ethics? Is your money more important than your values? And we have been conditioned to like want money more than we have to want like the good things in life and to want to care for each other and love each other and support each other. We have been massively conditioned to want those things because ultimately that feeds the economic structure that we've currently got, where you've got billionaires and even potentially a trillionaire soon sat at the very top, and everyone else is making them money. So this idea that just keep working harder to make this money, it just feeds into this system. And the problem that we've got is that, well, what does that then create? Well, you're not living like a human being. You're spending 15 hours a day desperately working a job just to make ends meet and keep a roof over your head. And that's becoming increasingly stressful, and you're becoming increasingly isolated and more isolated. So I mean, like a couple of things that we can do is like get more involved in community projects. Like that shouldn't be as crazy and as weird as what that sounds. That should be like, yeah, okay, cool. Like you should go and volunteer at something. Go volunteer at your local library. Like libraries are always looking for volunteers. Like, what's wrong with that? Or go and find your local sports club and go and get involved in your local sports club. Go and teach, go and support, go and mentor, go and help. Like get involved because that's what we're missing. If we want to recreate elements of the military, so I often say to guys who are transitioning, find a sense of who you are outside of the uniform whilst you still wear the uniform. So get involved in your communities, get involved in projects, get involved in things, know exactly what it is you want to do and where you want to go and how you want to live, and start making those friendships and those connections because these are really important. Get onto Civvy Street And when we were in the military, we had shared hardship, right? And I'm not saying that you can bundle a load of people into trucks and go to Ukraine with them. But what you can do is you can create shared hardship as you try and further your football club, your local football club, or you can like clear up and help maintain your local community, or you can get involved in projects to like further that community. You can get involved at your library, like create these opportunities to be part of something more important than yourself and work collaboratively with other people to make those things happen. This is what is like so missed about society. If you kind of just want, if you want to understand exactly what it is that I'm talking about, watch Lord of the Rings. Watch just the first 45 minutes of the Fellowship, like Hobbiton. That is that, like Tolkien was using that as this is a perfect example of how life should be lived. Like fulfillment. The whole point, well, one of the many points of Lord of the Rings is that fulfillment doesn't come from power, and it doesn't come from mountains of gold, and it doesn't come from being authoritarian. It comes from playing with your friends, sitting in your garden, eating a jack of potato. And that's what we're missing as a society. And when you're in the military, there's lots of opportunities for you to work together as a team to achieve an outcome against all odds, against adversity, against difficulty, and to have like shared experience, have the humor. You know, when I think about like things like times when I thought, I really love this, it's always been like those shared experiences with my friends, having a laugh, doing that stuff. And it's that loneliness that actually haunts so many people when they leave the military. They often say, I don't miss the circus, but I do miss the monkeys. So if you can recreate that on Civvy Street as let's be more like Combat Institute and just combat sports in general, it's probably the closest that you could get to recreating those same friendships in the military, because it's shared hardship, it's difficult, we're all really emotionally invested in each other, we all really care what each other achieve and where we go and what we do and how that looks. That there is why it's so important. And just find your version of the Combat Institute as a civilian on the outside, whatever it is that you choose to do, whatever your subjective sport is, whatever your subjective endeavor is, and use that to create much more meaningful friendships.
100%. What was it about jiu-jitsu that changed your life for the better?
Um, so uh, it's tough. Versions of it are tough. I'm not a big fan of the very sports style version of the sport. Don't get me wrong. Like if I'm rolling, I'm rolling. That's great. There's like different versions of it. So jiu-jitsu seems to appear on a bit of a spectrum. And I actually think making it an Olympic sport would kill it, because everything would become about scoring points and it wouldn't be about like necessarily submitting. It would be less of a combat sport and more of like a, I don't know what you call it, like a point scoring sport. But my point is that it's tough, right? It's a if you roll right, it's horrible. You should be gassed. You should be feeling a bit overwhelmed at times. One of the things that I found it really effective for me was it really helped with trauma management. So being pinned to the floor and having some bloke's bearded face pushed into the side of your neck was really triggering for me, particularly because of childhood experiences. So then being able to like fight a way out of that, like I will find a way to survive this, I will get out of this, was actually like really emotionally rewarding. Like that, it was almost like I was being triggered, but then I was actually managing that trigger. So you're almost microdosing the trauma and learning how to manage with that again, and then actually learning to reconnect with my nervous system, and learning to feel what's going on in my body. I actually wrote my dissertation on why Brazilian Jiu Jitsu should be considered a complementary therapeutic practice for veterans. And so I used the PERMA model. So for something to be considered a well-being practice that is then applied into the medical world, one of the things that they would consider is what's called the PERMA. So PERMA stands for positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. So I basically then took loads of studies into what was good about jiu-jitsu, went online, found loads of these studies, and I basically did a literary review. So I said, right, well, this study shows the positive emotions that come from jiu-jitsu. So it's showing that the rush of oxytocin and the rush of dopamine, we feel good and we're bonded to people because of combat sports, particularly Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So that's the P done. Engagement, like if you're focusing on anything other than this, you're going to lose. Like the moment that you've got Ryder on you and you're going, oh, I wonder what I'm going to have for tea, or I forgot to respond to that email. Next thing you know, he's got like some stupid Japanese named move going on where he's like ripping your ears off. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just horrible stuff he does.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool. So you have to be focused. You have to be mindful. So that there's good engagement there. There's the relationships. It's built upon trust. If I tap, that like stop. Like, and there's then like the etiquette around rolling as well. So the important etiquette around rolling is like, okay, cool. If you're gonna roll, but you're gonna kneel on the back of my head and dig your fist into my face, okay, cool. But like that's seen as a shitty thing to do. And then somebody, a bigger fish, will then go, right, we'll have a round after that then. And then the person who has done that then has the worst round of their life because they're then rolling against someone bigger, stronger, meaner. So you build positive relationships because it's built upon trust, right? And then it fits the PERMA model, right? And then it gives you meaning. There's also like a rank structure, so a lot of veterans really enjoy Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because there's a rank structure, and because of the aggressiveness of it, there's lots of being reflected within that. I do think within combat sports, for a lot of guys, they're looking for their bully. I think that's quite an interesting psychological principle that I can observe with some of the guys that do, and girls who do combat sports, is they're looking for the person that hurt them. So one of the things we identify within trauma management is getting an individual to identify why what happened to them will never happen to them again. So what happened to you because you were a child and because you were vulnerable, and that person and why they did what they did, we understand that. But you have to understand why what happened to you will never happen to you again. And one of the ways that why what happened to you will never happen to you again is because, yeah, but I can fight now. That's a different. I'm a different man. That's a different game. I'm a lot bigger. I'm a lot meaner. I am a lot more physically and psychologically equipped. Basically, whenever you face any challenge, your subconscious immediately thinks, do I have the physical or psychological resources to manage this situation? If you kind of do, you're likely to fight against it. If it goes, I don't, we need to get away, then you'll run away from it. And if it goes, I have no idea what to do in this situation, that's often where we see freezing and then fawning. So that you're far more likely to pick the fight option when challenged with a stressor, particularly violence, if you're really skilled in violence because you have done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because you've done kickboxing, whatever. BJJ has like such a large appeal because the non-striking element of it means that you can hold down a professional job and still do it. It's I mean, I've gone in with marks on my face to the clinic before where I take referrals from on Harley Street with marks all over my face and and my final session at Combat Institute before I moved, I took one hell of a knee to the eye socket and it swelled up. But my wife had said that I wasn't allowed to do any jiu-jitsu 2 weeks before the wedding, and then like a week after the wedding I get like this absolute massive shiner. But I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu appeals to people because of that, and because it's such a great combat sport. When you roll, in theory, you could roll like you meant it, like you were actually fighting for your life every time. In theory, you could, like, you would be hated and you would wreck your own body, and people would just beat you up every time for doing it. But you could in theory, and I think that's like a great aspect of the sport. Like, it is a real element of emotional control. The level of fitness required, the staying present in the moment, and like it is just so much trust in it. You know, if my ankle is in someone's hold and I tap, it's like, are you okay? Is everything all right? And there's like this really lovely exchange that often happens with people when you get someone to tap for doing something horrible, and you mother's milk someone, you know, and you know it's your fourth time of mother's milking Harry on a round, and every time you're like, I'm really sorry, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And you're like, I bet you fucking hate me. Yeah, I did a round with Pablo once, who's like one of the young lads on the combat fighting. People who don't know who Pablo is. I did a round with him once on open mat, and he stood up afterwards and went, thanks, Jim. I went, oh yeah, no worries, mate. And he looked a bit annoyed, and he just went over to like the heavy bag and just kicked the heavy bag solidly for 5 minutes. And I thought, he's going to beat me up in the car park after this. I swear to God, he's so annoyed. Yeah.
So you spoke there about
mate, that's why BJJ is an important.
So you spoke there about the link of childhood
Sorry.
trauma. No, you're all good. Childhood trauma and how that links to people wanting to get involved in fighting, fitness, excuse me, in general, which we see constantly. You know, I consume a lot of podcasts, interviews, and the amount of people who, it could be ultra running, it could be cage fighting. I got into it because I got jumped. I got into it because I was abused as a child. I got into it
Mm,
because of this. We see a lot of very,
mm,
very high achievers who have come from a background of a one-off trauma or long-standing abuse, and for every one of those, we see 1,000,
mm,
100,000, a million people who sit right at the bottom of the pecking order and live in poverty. How would you
mm,
say we need to
mm.
bridge the gap between those two things in society of those people not just being absolutely driven to beyond success and not sitting right at the bottom of the pecking order, but maybe settling in the middle where they're not reliant on their success to make them happy and they're able to achieve some level of societal success, monetary success?
Yeah. Yeah. So is the question there, how do we almost rein in that desire for success from trauma? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking? So
partially
how
that.
do we
How do
make
you
people
bridge
lead
that
more?
gap?
So I think first and foremostly, when a lot of people are pursuing huge levels of success in an attempt to escape, evade, or simply just disassociate from traumatic events, one of the key things to identify is, yeah, but is what you're doing actually bringing you fulfillment? Are you essentially delaying a problem? So if you're saying, right, I was abused as a child, so now I'm a cage warrior. Okay, cool. But being one of those things doesn't cancel out the other thing. One of those things has created that fire in you. Um, and actually, we have to be really careful about that language because it's often not the fact that, because I don't want to frame trauma as a good thing because it's not, but it's being used in this sense of I'm going to escape my trauma by being a cage warrior. So I escape my trauma by being a cage warrior, and that there is going to create me. It's going to create a different life for me. It's going to create a different life for my family, for my children, and we have then escaped that cycle of abuse that existed before. So in that sense, from that kind of viewpoint, you're like, but then is it a good thing? But it's like, well, yeah, but also it's not, because then what happens after the cage warrior stuff? So I think it's really important to then identify, is what you're doing bringing you fulfillment? Like, does this actually make you happy, or are we just escaping how our emotional state and how it is that we feel? So then we'll talk about like trauma resolution. Then you say, okay, cool. But if you're going to give trauma resolution, right? If you're going to do trauma resolution with someone, does that then take away their ability to fight? Then that you are you taking away their drive? And actually, I feel that if you do trauma resolution with someone and then they say, but I no longer want to fight, why is that a bad thing?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I don't know if you're aware of Gervonta Davis, the fighter,
No.
who he's comes from Baltimore, I think. Multiple siblings. Mum was an addict, was never present, would disappear for weeks at a time. He gets into boxing very, very young, uber successful straight away, but very angry, like a mini Mike Tyson. He's only small. I think he's like a flyweight.
Cool.
And then he finds himself in the Mayweather gym. They can see his promise. He becomes Mayweather's first like protege, goes pro, becomes a multiple weight champion, knocks people out left, right, and center. Last year has endless issues outside the ring revolving, assaults and whatnot. But last year said before a quite a big fight, he was like, "This is my last one because I need to have therapy, and I know as soon as I have therapy, I won't want to do this anymore. I won't have the same urge
Yeah.
to put my fist through someone's head that I do right now."
Yeah.
And whether he's been and done that or not, I'm not sure. But it does speak to that perfectly, that even these athletes and people who I'm sure are really successful in business are aware of that being their driving force and not
Yeah.
removing that as a driving force, even though it would benefit them in a day-to-day setting.
Yeah, 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 and it feels like, I think that's a great point, because how it feels like it benefits them from a day to day, and you're like, yeah, but I've made a lot of money, and you're like, yeah, but is it really benefiting you? Like, how many people here? How many experiences have you missed out on? Like, are you present as a parent? Are you able to sit and be a father or a mother, or whatever the context? Or like, have you really expressed love? Have you really expressed grief? Like, what is it about life that you've missed out on because you spent so much of your life running away from this trauma that existed in your childhood, that you've now used sport to cover that and soothe that, right? It's a soothing mechanism. How much time have you spent hunting your bully in the ring or in the cage, that actually, like, there's so much of life that you've missed out on. And if we were to like really peel back all of the bravado, does it really make you that happy? Like, do you really want to just spend your life putting your fist through someone's face, going, yeah, 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 I do, yeah, yeah, and yeah. Okay, maybe you do, but what if you don't? What if that isn't actually the thing that's going to make you happiest? And then, yeah, like you said, like I'm ready to walk away, and I'm in that space. And you can't force therapeutic interventions. You can't force people into counselling because they just won't take to it. They're just not interested. But can you be ready for them when they are? Yeah, absolutely. And maybe like these people who do, these hyper successful people who do use things like endurance events and fights to in their own way manage trauma. Like, I can put myself into an awful situation, I can fight my way out of it. I'm recreating the same dynamic as childhood, but this time I'm in charge. Like, okay, cool, but when you're ready to realize why you'll never be in that same situation again, and if you're ready to understand why what happened, and if you're ready to talk about it, then maybe actually there's also a space whereby you can go and lead a life that you find most happiest, most comfortable, and of course most fulfilling. But yeah, trauma has been used as a huge motivator for a vast majority of people who's made it out of poverty. If you live in poverty, you're 5 times more likely to be exposed to chronic stress. So there's lots of people who come from poverty, and lots of sports, say for example, boxing, cage warriors, bodybuilding, they're all like working class sports because they're cheap to start doing. Like going to the gym and pumping iron is, you can do that for, I think it's like a tenner a month in a pure gym or whatever it is. Boxing gyms have always been like mainly for working class people, and MMA is a working class sport. So there's lots of people there. There's like a high social economic demographic within those gyms who are likely to have come from poverty, and therefore 5 times more likely to be exposed to chronic stress and what we identify as ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. And so adverse childhood experiences people are in there, and they are managing their trauma by fighting. But again, as you pointed out, like, of all the ways to manage trauma, using sport or using business, like, those are really positive ways of as a coping mechanism. Like, there are who's that guy, Dr. Christian, who used to be on Embarrassing Bodies, and he was like, this going back like 20 years, right? And he was on 8 out of 10 cats, like when it first started, like really early on. And someone was heckling him because he's a really big guy. He's obviously into the gym. And he just went, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he just shot this joke down because he just went, there are worse things to be addicted to. And like that really stuck with me. I was like, because I feel that. Like, there are worse things to be addicted to, right? So if you're using cage wars, if you're using boxing in the example you gave, if you're using ultra marathon running, if you whatever it is, if you're using that to as a coping mechanism for stress, if you're using business, if you're like, there are far worse things out there that you could be doing. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily healthy, and I'm not saying that, like, this is a way to live your life for the rest of your life. Like, let's sit down, let's have a chat. But as well, like, if that is what you have been using and that is what you have been doing, then, like, I mean, I see a lot of people with serious addiction issues who it's just their way of managing that trauma. They never found cage warriors, which is really important. But that also, and I'm sorry, like all psychological questions, it's like very multifaceted and nuanced.
No, of course.
Just because someone goes to therapy as well doesn't mean they're not going to want to fight anymore. Like that guy there, he was saying, I'm here because I'm so angry about my life, and I'm so angry about my childhood, and I'm furious about things, and I'm actually ready to talk about it, and this is the last time I'm going to do this. And you're like, good for you, cool. But there are also people who fight, who are very, very good at fighting, who have had like huge successes, who have come to me, and like going to therapy has improved their performance. So actually, maybe they are just a person, maybe it's just their character, maybe it's their experiences that have shaped that make them really, really enjoy fighting. Maybe that's the case. And if that is the case, then going to therapy only ever enhances that. I don't want people to like think, well, if I go to therapy, I won't be a good fighter anymore. Actually, like lots and lots. I mean, this is why sports psychology exists as a field, because actually the key psychological skills required for performance you can learn in therapy, particularly if that's a therapeutic approach that is offered to you. Lots and lots and lots of very high performing combat athletes have mental health support in some way, be it for performance psychology, sports psychology, mental health, childhood counseling, trauma management. And they have those things, and actually it benefits their careers massively. You would probably find more athletes now who greatly benefit from counselling than you would do athletes who have had counselling and thrown the towel in. I just feel that particularly within combat sports, we're talking about lots of very severely traumatized people, particularly potentially exposed through things like violence, traumatic exposures through violence in childhood, potentially. Not true in all cases, of course, but potentially. So working with individuals on their mental health doesn't in any way suggest that they would be a worse fighter. One of the things is that if you are using fighting as a coping mechanism for your trauma, that actually your motivations for fighting might change, doesn't mean you get worse at it though.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, there so many high performing athletes inside, outside combat sports work with
Yeah,
psychotherapists, sports
yeah.
therapists, all sorts. You have worked with three-time Paralympic gold medalist Lauren Rolls, and I've seen
Hmm.
her openly speak very, very highly of her experience working with you. Just talk to me about,
Yeah,
because
she's cool.
I've been with you when we've watched our mutual friends and people you've worked with win area championships for combat sports and whatnot. But I can't even begin to imagine what it feels like to watch someone you've worked closely with go on to win a Paralympic gold medal.
Yeah, yeah. So like hairs on my arm have stood up. I always think about the first time I watched her win a gold medal. Um, cried, cried and cried because I knew what it meant. Like these things aren't just. It's not just it's weight and gold, right? It's everything that is um from being she wanted to do sprinting and getting told no, and then going up for the tryouts for rowing because she was a young athlete, and then being told, yeah, you've got some promise in the rowing, but we've got some work to do, and how she then went on and went on and went on and pursued and won the European Championships, like indoor and outdoor, and then like World Championships, and then was put on the Paralympic rowing team, and then that's where I came in, and to then see her get that gold medal, and like the struggles that we'd had in training and getting in our own head, and like because COVID happened. So like the first Paralympic gold that she got was off the back of COVID, and so that was at home strapping herself into her concept two rower, and going at it in her living room, and just being there through like the ups and downs, and so see someone do that, that's it's beyond like an incredible achievement. And I think that as children we love the Olympics, as adults we love the Paralympics, because it's just like what it represents is like the human spirit, and like you will just never find that in more abundance than you would do in Lauren Rolls. And she has just got this like this mentality of I have the relentless pursuit of excellence in everything that she does is about relentless pursuit of excellence. So I knew what this meant. This wasn't just a gold medal. This was like her soul was in this. And then for her to not just win, but for like the other people just shouldn't have even turned up. Like it was like absolutely, it was a masterclass of rowing. And yeah, so I cried, but working with Lauren taught me so much. So what I learned from Lauren was she said to me that she reckons she's done over 2 million strokes of an oar. Sat in the boat, she's done 2 million strokes. And she said, not once have I actually done a perfect stroke. And I said, that's so interesting. And it kind of led me to do like a little bit of my own research. So Floyd May, I know that people would argue this, but Floyd Mayweather is arguably one of the greatest boxers of all time, right? People will go blah 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 blah, but like he's
No,
got
I'm
to
with
be
you. I'm with you
he's,
there.
he's got to be in everyone's top 10, right? Like surely. And we're not just talking about like financial success, because there is actually a metric that we can use, which is his accuracy rate. And so what I found was that Floyd Mayweather's accuracy rate of punches that he threw was 47%. And he's actually the most accurate boxer. So of all of the boxers he did, he was the most accurate. And you think, wow, like less than half of the punches he threw, he actually landed, which then I think is really interesting. So to be considered one of the greatest in the world, you don't actually need to land every punch. In fact, you don't even need to land half of your punches. As long as you land 47%, less than half of your punches land, you can still be considered the greatest. And I know that like defensively, the guy was like in a league of his own, but he still got hit 18% of the time, which I think is really interesting as well. So
Mm.
then you can still be the world's best and still get punched in the face. You just got to learn to get on with it. And so actually that's like a lot of like counseling that I do with athletes is based around don't worry about being perfect, just worry about always moving forward. And so like Lauren is a great representation of that. Like she has this relentless pursuit of excellence. Like she, back to back to back world, European, Paralympic champion, right? Like several times over. Gets her MBE, and is now looking at doing Paralympic sprinting in the sprinting wheelchairs, which is just amazing. Apps like one of our most decorated Paralympians of all times, and one of like the greatest representations of British athletes of all time. And so getting to work with somebody like that who says something as powerful as I've done 2 million strokes to the arm and still I don't think I've ever done a perfect one. Like that tells you things about what it means to be human, right? So like do away with the idea of perfect, right? Just keep moving forward, because I could work with you, Tommy, for like 10 years, right? And I could turn up and we can get into the strike lab and I could hit a pad every day for 10 years. I promise you that every time I throw a punch, you could find a way that I can improve it, no matter what.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
no
I
matter
think
what.
picking up what you just said there on the relentless pursuit of excellence, not the relentless pursuit of perfection,
Yeah.
because it's unattainable. You're not going to get there, but excellence is as close as you can get.
Excellent as close as you can get. Yeah, let go of the idea of perfect. Just keep throwing those punches, right? You don't have to land them all. In fact, you don't even have to land half of them. Just keep throwing those punches, keep your guard up, keep moving forward. And then that's very much a lesson that I take forward with athletes. Like always be willing to learn, always be willing to hear this stuff. And whenever I work with athletes, whenever I work with anybody, there's always a story, and there's a story of human endeavor, and that makes them really likable. And then you like back them, and you're like, you really want this person to do really, really well. And everyone's got a story. Everyone says something or has a perspective or something that makes me think that's really interesting. Like that's such a fascinating facet of a person to really understand. And like that was just, like it was in at the deep end. Like Lauren was like one of my first. So like one of my, and I'm dealing with like this athlete who was just absolutely, she felt just completely unstoppable. Um, on the last Paralympics, she was paired with this guy called Greg Stevenson, and Greg Stevenson's a really good friend of mine, as well. And actually, he then came to me and said, "Can we do some work, please?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he was on upper T, and he's just the same mentality of this relentless pursuit of excellence. And it made me think about like how many athletes do we know who just will just look at the start about me winning the Tommy Reed games, whatever one it was before with in the little teams. But there's this guy Ryder who like absolutely like that is a great example of the relentless pursuit of excellence, because he's not having it. He's coming for me. I know he's coming for me, and I know he's 20 years younger than me. But I know he's coming. I know but he wants it. But that is
Yeah,
such a likable
100%.
trait, and it's almost like a guarantee of success is someone who can let go of the idea of perfect, doesn't derail themselves because they don't put in a perfect performance. But rather than focus on perfection, and rather than getting in their own head about perfection, and rather than derailing themselves because they're not perfect, they're like, I'm just going to keep trying. It's just this relentless pursuit of excellence. Um, those people are the people who ultimately I feel are the ones who become world champions.
Jimbo, you are the fucking man. I've thoroughly enjoyed having you on,
Me too,
mate.
bro.
I do have one last question, and I think
Hit
you're going
me.
to enjoy it. For a bit
Go
of
on.
context, for anyone watching this who isn't familiar with James or has never actually watched one of his videos on Instagram, go to the show notes and go on his Instagram. Every single video, he has something spilt down his hoodie. Every single video. So to finish off, James, I would like you to blind rank these things to spill down yourself.
Okay, I love it. Okay,
Let's
go.
say you're wearing a black hoodie and you're out and
Okay.
about in town.
Okay. How many out of how many?
5.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
okay, okay.
So ketchup, tomato ketchup.
The thing about tomato ketchup, it depends what you're having it with. Okay, so tomato ketchup on a hot dog is a nightmare scenario because that's going on my hoodie. Like tomato ketchup that's just been stirred in, like that's not going to be a problem. So I'm gonna put it to. It's probably the most common one that I've got. Most of my tops are ruined because of tomato ketchup. So I'm gonna put it bang in the middle at number 3.
Okay, perfect. Up next is mayonnaise.
Yeah, do you know what? Like mayonnaise, I dip my chips in it, but I'm not drowning a hot dog in it. So that sits at number five.
Perfect. Crisp crumbs.
Oh, see, here's the problem with Dorito Flaming Hot. They are so good, right? And then, but what you're supposed to do with the Dorito dust on your hands? It's a two. It sits at number two because you have to wipe it on your top. You have to wipe it on your top.
Okay. Pasta sauce.
Uh, yeah. Do you know what? So if I'm having what we call spinning spoons, which is spaghetti bolognese, I've become a little bit more savvy now, and I get a tea towel and I tuck it in. I know I'm married now,
You're a
so
man of culture.
I have
Live
to
in the
up my game.
Cotswolds. You're...
Yeah, I'm in the Cotswolds now, so
That's
that's going to
it.
sit at number four.
Number four. And then, so your final one, sitting at number one, is melted cheese. Could be on
Yeah,
a
do you know what?
toasty,
I
could be
don't even
on.
regret it. Don't even regret that
Perfect.
whatsoever. Like melted cheese goes fuck everywhere. I got a good one. So I was driving back from Otterburn. I was in the army at the time, and I had a guy Jacko, and he was asleep in the passenger seat in the Land Rover next to me, and I had a bag of Haribos. And had the bag of Haribos, and we had not slept. And so, like, first and foremost, driving when you're that tired is really dangerous and stupid and illegal. He's like fast asleep, and the Haribos was open and sat on the heater on the front. And so I put my hand in, and then it was like goo, and I was like, oh no. And then basically everything I touched, I just turned into like fucking Spider-Man. I was literally like, it was on my top, it was in my hair. I was going, oh god, no. And then we crashed because I was so busy,
Oh
like,
no.
yeah. So we bumped into a lorry on like going down the whatever it was, A1. He wakes up, he's like, as we're like skidding down, there's trailers are like going everywhere. And he looks over and he's like there, and I'm there with like the Haribo just glued all over the inside of the cabin. He's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm sorry." And still, every time that memory pops up, you message and he's like, "We have the little back and forth." And I said, "Oh, sorry, the time I nearly killed us."
Yeah.
I've just
Oh,
always just
mate.
been an absolute gross animal of a boy. I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, no, you bought a Strike Lab hoodie off me, and you know that hoodie's seen some things. You know, you wore that
That's,
hoodie when you drove the ambulances to donate to Ukraine,
did
but
you?
it's
Yeah.
seen much worse things in your dining room at home.
Yeah. When we were had to bribe our way over the border, so you have to give them stuff to others won't let you over the border. So they're
Yeah.
giving out like baby wipes as like bribes to these Ukrainian guards, and then they let us through. And yeah, and then that night I went for there's like this underground restaurant that's like part of like this bomb shelter where they like have these chimneys and they roast like bits of meat. And I had barbecue and I had some ribs and I wiped my rib sticky rib hands on my site team hoodie and I thought, such an idiot. I'm just so
You needed the baby wipes. You're like, why did I
yeah.
give the baby wipes away?
Yeah, the baby give all my baby wipes
Yeah,
away.
exactly.
That's it, mate. Yeah. That strike team hoodies coming everywhere, mate. Like I sent you the pictures. Came on holiday, bro. Like oh, we're going for food. The hoodie's like, oh, fucking hell.
Right.
It's like,
I
man,
really appreciate you,
right.
brother. I appreciate you coming on the pod. I can't wait to have you on again and dive into these topics and
Sounds good.
expand. And, you know, we haven't even started discussing the book, Think Yourself Resilient, which is fantastic. I bought the book as soon as I met you to, you know, I know a guy who's written a book. I want to
Mm.
be supportive. And it took me about 2 years to actually read it. And the first time I read it, I didn't put it down. And I'm not a reader. I don't read a lot of books, and I could
Thanks,
not put it down. It's a fantastic book, so I
thanks,
highly
man.
recommend it. That'll be linked in the show notes as well. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to shout out before we finish?
No, but just for everyone who reads any of my stuff, who shares any of my stuff, who engages, who talk to people about me, who use my name in rooms that I'm not in. Like I appreciate everybody. You know, like I've got a really good professional and personal reputation. I think with with the community of Colchester, and it's just been like I know that I've moved away now, like really recently. It's just been an absolute joy to like serve that community and serve everybody from the Combat Institute and serve those people. I continue to do so for a lot of them, but it has just been like it's an absolute joy. Like Colchester will forever be like my safe space. Like I whenever my life has fallen apart, which it has done a couple of times, because, you know, we're human beings and that's what happens. I go to Colchester because you're there, people are there, people like Oz are there, people are like you know, Ryder and these Sam Cooks are there, you know, people who will just, Ben Rowe, of course, Ben Rowe, who will just, no matter what, will just love and support and guide me. And so I really miss elements of Colchester. So I don't want to plug anything. I just want to say thank you to all the people who like have invested in me, both financially, figuratively, and emotionally.
You're the man, brother. I appreciate
Cheers,
you.
bro.
Thank you very much for being on the Uncommon podcast.
Yeah, cheers, bro. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for watching that episode of the Uncommon podcast. I greatly appreciate you being here. And I really, really want to say thank you to James Elliott. James is genuinely fantastic, and I can't recommend his work enough. If you would like to purchase his book or see his social medias, any of the projects he's worked on or the things he's written, just head down to the show notes and it's all down there. And if not, then you should watch this video because YouTube has recommended it as the one that you would enjoy the most. If you're listening on Spotify, ignore that bit. Thank you very much. See you on the next one.